All right, let's dive right in. Imagine for a second there is a hidden, incredibly complex matrix of rules that you and I use every single day, completely subconsciously. We literally breathe it, we think in it, we interact through it, but we almost never see the underlying code. Well, today, we're going to decode exactly how that system works. Welcome to this explainer on structural linguistics.
You know, this really is the ultimate mystery of communication. Think about it. You only have a small handful of grunts, clicks, and hisses that your mouth can physically produce. Yet somehow you can use that tiny toolkit to explain quantum mechanics or, just tell a really good joke. To actually solve this mystery, we have to stop looking at language as just a static list of words in a dictionary and start seeing it for what it really is, a masterfully designed, intricate game.
And that brings us to the core of what we're talking about today. Structural linguistics teaches us this kind of mind-blowing idea that a single word or a single sound actually means absolutely nothing on its own. It literally only has value based on how it contrasts with the pieces around it. It's exactly like a game of chess. A king is only a powerful piece because of the rules governing how it relates to the pawns and the knights on the board.
So here is our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to cover 1, the hidden language matrix. 2, Saussure and the sign. 3, the rules of the game. 4, a tale of two schools. 5, the Chomskyan challenge. And finally, 6, the structural legacy.
Let's start with section 1, the hidden language matrix. So, going back to that fundamental mystery of how a finite number of sounds creates endless meaning, there's this fantastic quote from the 17th century Port Royal grammar by Antoine Arnaud that perfectly captures the mathematical awe of language. Centuries ago, thinkers were already recognizing that this ability to translate pure, complex thought into just 25 or 30 sounds is nothing short of miraculous. It totally sets the stage for why a structural approach is so necessary to figure this marvel out.
Moving on to section 2, Saussure and the sign.
To really grasp the master rulebook of this matrix, we need to talk about the main architect of structuralism, the Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure. His crucial breakthrough was breaking the linguistic sign down into 2 distinct parts. On one side, you have the signifier. That's the actual physical sound you make, like vocalizing the word cat. On the flip side is the signified, the abstract idea of a furry, purring feline that immediately pops into your head. And Saussure pointed out something huge. The link between these two is completely arbitrary. There's absolutely nothing inherently cat-like about the sound cat. That connection only exists because of the rules of the system we've all agreed to play by.
But he didn't stop there. He also entirely split how we study language. Saussure separated the master rulebook, which he called langue, representing the overarching social organism of language, from the individual voluntary move a player makes, which he called parole, the actual words you decide to speak right now. Basically, structuralism says that if you want to understand the game, you don't waste time analyzing just one player's random moves. You study the master rulebook.
Section 3, the rules of the game.
So, if language really is like chess, how do the pieces actually move and interact? Well, we build sentences on 2 intersecting axes. First up, paradigmatic relations. This is your selection axis. Think of it like a mental drop-down menu where you select the word cat instead of bat or hat. Once you've picked your piece, you move to the syntagmatic axis. This is how you chain those selected pieces logically together. And just by flipping that chain, like taking the French je dois and swapping it to dois, you structurally transform a statement into a question without adding a single new word. It's incredibly elegant.
Then another linguist, André Martinet, built on this with a brilliant concept called double articulation. This shows exactly how a tiny handful of completely meaningless sounds, like the phonemes K, A, and T, can be stacked together in step 2 to build a meaningful unit, a morpheme, like the word cat. This 2-level double stacking is the secret sauce that makes language so wildly efficient.
Martinet hit the nail on the head when he said, "A few thousand of such units, freely combinable, enable us to communicate more things than could be done by millions of unarticulated cries." It really drives home the sheer evolutionary genius of structural language. We don't need a million different highly specific grunts for every single situation we encounter. We just need a few freely combinable pieces. That structural efficiency is literally the only reason human memory can hold an entire language.
Section 4, a tale of two schools.
Now, after Saussure passed away, his ideas spread, but they hit a bit of a geographical and philosophical roadblock, ultimately splitting the field in 2. Tracking this chronologically, Saussure's posthumous work kicks things off in Europe in 1916.
By 1928, over in the Prague Circle, Europeans are heavily formalizing phonology. But meanwhile, across the Atlantic, American linguists like Edward Sapir and Leonard Bloomfield are independently adapting these structural concepts. Bloomfield's 1933 book Language became a massive, defining anchor for the American approach.
And that leaves us with this totally fascinating dichotomy. On one side, European structuralism stayed highly theoretical and philosophical, really obsessed with how meaning and form interact. On the flip side, American descriptivism, often called American structuralism, was out in the field. These linguists were actively documenting indigenous languages, so they adopted a strict, empirical, almost behaviorist approach. Many post-Bloomfieldian Americans operated practically like mechanics, trying to define language structures solely by their mathematical distribution, intentionally avoiding semantics or meaning as much as they could. It's just incredible to observe this stark contrast in how two different academic cultures tackled the exact same matrix.
Section 5. The Chomskyan Challenge.
But by the 1950s, that mechanical American system was completely disrupted. Enter Noam Chomsky. Chomsky comes in and essentially flips the board, arguing that both the Europeans and the Americans were missing the biggest piece of the puzzle. He totally rejected the idea that language was just an external store of social signs. Instead, he argued that the real rules of the game are hardwired right into our internal cognitive biology. He shifted the entire focus away from the social organism of Long directly into the individual human mind. He even broke Saussure's unity of the sign, claiming that sentences have a deep structure inside our brains that is entirely separate from the surface structure of what we actually speak out loud. A massive game changer.
Finally, Section 6, the structural legacy. Now you might think Chomsky's disruption was the end of structuralism, but nope, it evolved, and it actually found some mind-blowing validation in modern science. Today's neuroimaging gives us tools Saussure could have only dreamed of. Event-related potential studies, or ERPs, show that our brains process language through a constant, simultaneous interaction of form and meaning, which aligns perfectly with Saussure's two-sided sign. Even crazier, MRI studies literally prove that a child's brain is physically shaped differently depending on the structural characteristics of their native language. The matrix is literally molding the physical structures of our brains.
And because structuralism proved to be such an incredibly powerful lens for looking at systems, its influence exploded way beyond grammar. From the 1950s onwards, Saussure's framework basically became the ultimate toolkit for the humanities. Thinkers took structuralism and used it to analyze everything, from the hidden rules of novels and literary theory to complex kinship structures in anthropology, all the way to the deepest questions of human existence and continental philosophy.
So I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat unsettling but totally fascinating thought. If every single idea we have and every single word we choose is strictly governed by this hidden matrix of rules, oppositions, and contrasts, who is actually in control of the game? Are we just using language as a handy tool to speak our minds? Or by giving us the very structural framework for how we perceive reality, is language actually speaking us? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it gave you a totally new lens for viewing the words you use every single day.